Okay. Welcome to the Sunday afternoon Thai time, 4 p.m. call. We do this every week. Today we have 14 people on the call. That's quite a lot. Uh, Several years ago, when we first started, I would wonder whether or not anybody was going to call. Now I get all uptight and unhappy when there's not 10 people on the call. So thank you for going over my desperation number. I'm joking, of course, in case somebody doesn't know. All right, so today we're going to talk on the general topic of the distinction between what is correct practice and what is the results of correct practice. Now, we can also put these in two different worlds or two different levels. One would be the ordinary level, which is where ordinary people practice when they get started. And they're the ones who make the most confusion out of what's the difference between correct practice and what is the result of correct practice. And then the other group is the group of nobles who fully understand the distinction between what is correct practice and what is the results of correct practice. You could say, in fact, that have you ever heard of the concept of building an airplane while you're flying it? Mikey, sure you're smiling, so you've heard of that concept. U.S. Air Force does that all the time. Building an aircraft while you're flying it, or the other way of doing it is talking about it is making automobile repairs while you're running your automobile. Or another way of thinking about it is a pit stop in a race. The pit stop doesn't take very long, but that's different than flying an aircraft while you're building it, because if you're not building it while you're flying it, you may in fact crash land, and then you've got a whole lot of building to do. So um, let us take this from the perspective, first off, of the noble who is correctly practicing, knowing that what his practice is the practice of the Dhamma, the Buddha Dhamma. And that one of the ways that we can look at that is that the Dhamma is always wholesome. No doubt about it. Everything about the Buddha Dhamma is wholesome. I haven't seen any suttas that are unwholesome. There's some stories about Devadatta and a few things like that, but the point of those stories was how the Buddha handled it, which was always in a noble fashion. One of the stories, in fact, is that Devadatta, who was very jealous of the Buddha, he was a distant relative, and he wanted to kind of take over because he wanted to be the boss of the Sangha. And one of the things he did was get a rogue elephant drunk, because elephants get drunk and they'll run all kinds of havoc. And he was also mistreating the elephant to getting angry. And so he got this elephant angry, let us say, in the village down on a soy or an alleyway, and then made the bull elephant charge just at the time when the Buddha was walking down the street. And what the Buddha did was just stop, I guess, and smiled at the drunk elephant. And the drunk elephant didn't charge him. I guess that's because the elephant knew that the Buddha was not the one who was getting him drunk and mistreating him. That was Devadatta that was doing that. So, in that regard, I can't think of any place where we will see that there's any unwholesome parts of the suttas or the teachings of the Buddha. Now, that's an important point because why? Is correct practice is having wholesome thoughts. And when you're thinking about the Dhamma, you're naturally thinking about wholesome things. Examples of that is, wow, how marvelous it is that I know the Dhamma. Wow, how nice it is that I've been introduced to the Dhamma and I know that I can come out of any problems that I've got. We become delighted in the Dhamma. We think about the Dhamma. We think about particular suttas that are our favorites. And we continue to do that this is a very wholesome thing to do, is to reflect upon the Dhamma, thinking about the Dhamma, thinking about correct practice in the sense of having wholesome, happy thoughts on all the right places and all the right times when you've got nothing else to do. That's what we do. When you're taking a rest, having thoughts of, wow, this is nice, I can rest. I know I can rest because I know how to rest, and I know how to rest because I learned how to rest from the Buddha, listening to the Dhamma. So this is one of the ways that we can start living our lives, thinking about and being around the Dhamma on a fairly consistent, constant basis. That in fact, being enthusiastic about the Dhamma, seeking it out, listening to other people talk about the Dhamma, reciting the Dhamma, reflecting upon the Dhamma, doing some chants if you know those, and mulling over the Dhamma. This is the way that we would spend our time mostly. And that what this is referred to then is that's the noble state, by the way, of the Sotapan, the one who is curious and interested in the Dhamma because he knows it works. Now, there's a number of steps along the way. In fact, there is in Sutta number 48 in the Kasambian Sutta, there are 7 knowledges that leads one through the 7 knowledges that bring one to the state of, you got Dhamma all the time, you got nothing else. All right, so the first knowledge is that no matter how hindered or obstructed the mind, no matter how unwholesome it has gotten, when I see that it's like that, I can come out of it. I know I can come out of it. The student knows that no matter how obstructed the mind gets, he can come out of it and come back to those happy, successful, satisfying thoughts, thoughts about the Dhamma. He can come back to reality the way that it really is. Now, in this sutta, this verse that I'm kind of reciting, it says that this is the first knowledge. It is noble. It is a factor of the path. It is not held by ordinary people. So a whole lot of ordinary people who can, think about Buddhism, talk about Buddhism, think that they're a Buddhist, and yet when their mind becomes hindered, they'll look for a pill, they'll look for a doctor, they'll look for a guru, they'll look for somebody else to help them because they don't have that supreme confidence of no matter what the problem is, I can get out of it. I can come through it all by myself. This is the first part that's noble. And one could then see that, in fact, that's what starts the noble process. And if that's what starts the noble process, one can then say that that's the first step of Sotapan. One becomes a Sotapan by having that particular attitude. So I invite you to start to cultivate that attitude of, I can handle anything. I'm the winner here. Doesn't matter what happens, I can get over it. The dog died, mom died, the moon crashes into the earth, volcanoes, cops stopping us on the road, going into the hospital. It doesn't matter what happens, I'm okay. I can handle it. That's the attitude to cultivate. Cathal, do you know what I'm talking about? Is that your attitude? You can handle anything. You got that old cootie there at Dhamma Calls, and all you needed is a hammer and a broom and the right attitude. I can handle that cootie.
The lion's attitude, yeah. The lion's attitude.
Okay. So the first knowledge leads to the second knowledge, and the second knowledge is that I can, in fact, create what we would call serenity, calmness, relaxation. I can relax. The third knowledge is the knowledge of what is and is not the path. The knowledge is that the Eightfold Noble Path of the Buddha is the way to live one's life. I can live my life like this. I can handle anything so long as I remember that I can look at what's going on and make a change inside my own mind. That politics can happen out there. And ordinary people say, oh, if I could only fix politics, then I would be happy. Well, that's a big job. You think you can fix politics enough to where you can be happy because you fixed politics? I don't think so. But the joyful point is that you don't have to fix politics to be happy. You can just merely be happy because you know you can. That you can come out of your politicking kind of thoughts and come back and say, I don't need to think about politics. I'm already okay. Now, the fourth knowledge is quite an important knowledge. In fact, you could say that this is the tipping point that takes one from the path of the Sotapan into the fruit of the Sotapan. And that is the knowledge that I can, in fact, let us say, get over my own wrongdoing. That I can, in fact, find a senior monk or a teacher or someone that I trust and confess and get over this. This is not at all like Christian confession, where you confess and then you put money in the poor box and you say 10 Hail Marys and then you go right back out and do it again. It's sort of like getting forgiveness so that you can start over with your crimes. Yeah, you got busted, you got 10-year sentence, but you are out on bail, or maybe they gave you a pardon and now you're free to go rob another bank. This is the Christian view. But the Buddhist view is that once I see what I have done wrong, I'm going to be watching for that. That's part of my list. I'm not going to do that anymore. And so if we have that kind of a list of the wrongdoings that we have done, and that we have that attitude of, hey, I can come out of that before I go into it. That's the real major step. And why is that necessary? Is because if we do not like our wrongdoing, then we'll hide from it. We'll deny it. We'll tell ourselves lies about it. Oh, you should not fart around. Therefore, when you do fart around, you say, oh, I didn't fart around. My farting around is a good kind of farting around, and we make all kinds of excuses or whatever instead of recognizing that, oh, yeah, I'm not going to do that. So this is that step number 4. The step number 5 then is when we get to the point that we recognize that it doesn't matter what happens, that in fact all of the wrongdoing that we were accusing ourselves of is because we've got a whole bunch of rules and rituals and problems that we're trying to solve that in fact are not problems at all, that we make that stuff up. We accuse ourselves of wrongdoing to where in fact we're okay. Stop judging ourselves and start looking at the number one rule that we begin to see in this regard is that there's really only one rule. We don't have any other rules but one rule. Mikey, your own. What's our one rule?
Dukkha dukkha nirodha. Don't worry, be happy.
Right. come out of it. When you see that you've got something wrong, you say, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. Hot dog, I've got the Dhamma now. The Dhamma is going to protect me. I'm going to remember the Dhamma, and I'm not going to have that kind of an issue anymore. Okay, when we have that kind of an attitude, that means now that we become dedicated, if you want to use that word, to the Dhamma. The example is that when the monk is sweeping on the grounds of the Wat, while he's sweeping the Wat, he's still thinking about the Dhamma. So, Kat, while you're cleaning out that kuti, when you're repairing it with your hammer and your broom and whatnot, the thing to do is say, I'm doing this with and for and by the Dhamma. Well, I can do this because I've got the Dhamma. Yeah, it's filthy dirty, but I can do it. So another example of the fifth stage, or the fifth kind of knowledge, is the knowledge of the example is that a mother cow has a calf, and even though she's out grazing, she's got one eye on that calf. An example would be if there's a forest near the place where she's grazing, she's going to stand and be between herself and keep, she's going to be in the middle so that her calf is not exposed to the forest. You probably have seen that in old American culture, to where a couple is walking down the road and the male will always take the roadside unless he's going into dangerous territory, and then he'll take the side of the danger so that he can protect his precious female friend. How many of you have heard of that? Yeah, right. So this is what we're looking for, is that you've got something precious now. It's called the Dhamma. And you're going to keep one eye out for the Dhamma all the time. You're going to treat it like it was an input that can grow, and that you're not going to let lions, tigers, unwholesome feelings, politics, or anything mess with your Dhamma. You're going to protect it. You got your thought on it all the time. You're keeping an eye on the Dhamma. Then the sixth is when we become enthusiastic, completely enthusiastic about the Dhamma. We begin to see it, Dhamma everywhere. Dhamma, Dhamma, Dhamma everywhere. And then the last knowledge, the seventh knowledge, is when we take great delight in the Dhamma, which means that we're basically thinking about it almost all the time. Everything that we see and say and do is related to the Dhamma. We can see it. So this is what's the state about becoming a noble is all about, is that we are nobly involved with the wholesome about as much of the time as we can. We don't spend hardly any time at all in dukkha, because we can see it and protect ourselves from it and come right out of it. This is actually then referred to as the fruit of the sotapan. Now, this takes a lot of practice. Never mind, start again. Yeah, there's going to be unwholesome thoughts come up. Can you catch those unwholesome thoughts and throw them out and bring some wholesome thoughts, perhaps thoughts about the Dhamma, back in? Now, when one has the Dhamma, when one has basically the sukha, another word for this delight in the Dhamma is the Pali word sukha. Then, in fact, it's a Thai word, sukh. They have duk and sukh in Thai. They have duki and sukhi in Gujarati language and other languages. They have dukkha and sukha in the Pali. They're exact opposites. When you are in dukkha, you're in dissatisfaction. And when you are in sukha, you are in satisfaction. Everything is okay. That's, in fact, what the Buddha is all about, is can you maintain a state of applying and sustaining that state of sukha. Now, the sukha has several qualities to it on its own. One is we feel unafraid. There is safe and secure. There's no dangers. Yeah, there may be a bobcat in the tree, but it's not dangerous. Yeah, there may be a drunk elephant on the prowl, but it's not dangerous. We can handle anything. Safe and secure and comfortable leads us into a state of satisfaction. Now, from that state of satisfaction, all kinds of things begin to occur. As I said before we started the call, think about this as the difference now would be between a teenager in the 1950s who is kind of getting an old wreck. His dad bought him an old 1949 Chevrolet, and we got to get this thing going, but it's a repair job even while we're driving it, which is completely different then from a highly qualified mechanic who is a top race car builder, and he builds the race car for the race. So there's a difference between building a race car and actually out racing. This is the noble, as opposed to the teenager who has a 1949 Chevrolet who's trying to keep it running while he's riding in it. How many of you have ever had a 1949 Chevrolet? Okay, so if you can understand that concept, you can understand that that kid with the 1949 Chevrolet is operating in an ordinary lifestyle. He's trying to get his Dhamma going while he's trying to repair it, as opposed to a Formula One race car is got that thing wired. He's got all 7 knowledges of it, and now we're going to put that ride out on the road. So if we can see it from this perspective, then we can see that things like metta, generosity, gratitude, and other factors that you've heard of Buddhism, and I'll give you guys a chance to name some others. You've heard about metta, karuna, which is compassion, sympathetic joy, upekkha, gratitude, generosity. What's some more? Anybody got another one?
Mudita.
Mudita, yes, that's sympathetic joy. Yes, go ahead, Amrit.
I'm just counting from the 7 factors. So there is a factor of tranquility.
Okay.
Then there's a factor of balance. I think that's already upekkha.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. So you can think of it then in 2 different worlds. Is one, the ordinary Buddhist student practices metta. He practices generosity. He practices upekkha. He practices sympathetic joy, mudita. But actually, in a way, he always feels like that it's not enough. He hasn't gotten it yet. It's a practice for him. That in fact is there's some things that are really built in as kind of a problematic situation. They in some retreats they practice metta as a practice. And one of the things that they say is the phrase, may all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering. How many have ever heard that? Okay. Do you think it's even possible? Is that even possible? No, it's an ideal. This is the point about being an ordinary person is we have these high ideals and we say, oh, if I say may all beings be happy, well, what's the value of saying that? Because all beings are not going to be happy. Maybe
someday.
Pardon?
Maybe someday in the distant future.
I would imagine that the sun is going to burn out, that the planet Earth is going to implode, that some asteroid is going to strike the Earth, that a nuclear bomb is going to go off, or maybe something escapes from a lab, and the human race will clutch itself to get to death far before it happies itself into bliss and enlightenment. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. It may be possible for a leopard to change its spots, or for a zebra to change its stripes. I mean, if you took a great big group of zebras into the tundra of the north, maybe over a few generations, they wouldn't need those stripes anymore, because those stripes are helping them from being free from getting eaten by lions and whatnot. And there is no lions up north. So it's possible for a zebra to change its stripes before humans are going to be happy, because a bunch of people squatted on the floor in Asia saying, may all beings be happy. It's not going to happen. That's magical thinking. That in fact, the way to look at it is that who is in fact the center of your universe? Who is your world? When you close your eyes and sit there and not think about the outside world, the only world you've got, may all beings be happy. There's only one. And so the correct practice would be, may I be happy right now, except that it's not a may I be happy, it is while I am happy. May is still wishful thinking. That's actually a hindrance. Wanting something that we don't have is dukkha. May I be happy is downright unsatisfying. But I am happy while I can do this. That's satisfying. So that in a way is your own metta. Now, think about a bucket. And that bucket is hot because it's out in the sun. It's completely dry. And the guy wants to fill that bucket full of water. And all he's got is a tap that drips, just dripping. And so he puts that hot, sunny bucket under the tap. And the first few drops that go into that bucket are going to what? They're going to evaporate. They're not going to stay. He's got no water in that bucket. Drop after drop after drop. Still no drops at the bottom of the bucket. But one of the things that's happening to the bucket is what? It's cooling off. So that pretty soon, after putting more water in the bucket, it begins to accumulate a little bit of water in the bottom. If we continue to put that water in the bucket, it's going to get half full. It's going to get completely full. And when it gets completely full, what's going to happen to it, Mikey?
It's going to overflow.
It's going to overflow. That's right. And there's where the metta comes from. It's your overflow. That's where your generosity comes from. It comes from your overflow. If you're hungry and starving and you've got a half-eaten sandwich and you're still nibbling on that, and somebody comes by and says, can I have your sandwich? The answer to that is not just no, it's hell no, I'm hungry. But if you've got a whole, let us say McDonald's full of hamburgers, because you own the place, and somebody comes by and says, oh, can I have something to eat? You're sure you're going to give it to them because you got plenty. Unless, of course, you're a greedy capitalist American. But if you're a practitioner of the Dhamma, of course you're going to give it away because you've got it. You've got enough. Okay, so how can you give joy if you don't have any? How can you give joy if your bucket is hot and empty? How can you give joy, in fact, if your bucket's half full? But you can give joy to other people as an excess when you're overflowing with it. You've got nothing more than to just it's going to leak out all over the place. So this is the way that we think of it as nobly, is that you have generosity, you have metta and friendship, you have gratitude because you're overflowing with it. This is the noble way to practice, is to get your act together, and then you can go out and help other people. Just like getting that race car together, getting it in top-notch quality, and now it can fly to where that poor old 49 Chevrolet is going to limp wherever it goes. So that's the difference between an ordinary person with an ordinary mind thinking that, oh, I have to practice generosity. Oh, I have to practice metta. For in fact, when one is noble, there is nothing else to do. You're overflowing with it. Everywhere you go, your metta, your joy is slopping around. You spill it on other people, whether they want it or not. So instead of then practicing what ordinary people do, the right thing to do is to put that 49 Chevrolet in the shop, polish it up, change out the engine, change out the wheels, change out the body, change it out until you've turned that 49 Chevrolet into a Formula One racer. And then now you can go. Rather than tooling around with in a 49 Chevrolet that can't hardly make it to the next gas station. So, Ross, this is basically the question that you were asking was, can't we practice generosity? Can't we practice? Yes, you can, but in fact, that's probably a good way to do it in the sense of, I had a student, haven't seen him for a while. He lived in New York City, and that talking about generosity and getting started, I says, okay, Willie, take a pack of quarters and start giving quarters away. You find somebody that needs a little bit of help, give them a little bit of help. And that wound up later for him that he would actually bring coffee and cinnamon rolls and whatnot to someone because he felt that generosity. So there is some practice in the generosity if we're practicing correctly. But giving a quarter away from time to time is not really practicing generosity. In fact, oftentimes we just want to give the guy a quarter to get rid of him. So the right way to practice is, okay, if you're ordinary, yeah, start to practice generosity, because if you're practicing generosity correctly, then you're really practicing correctly, using generosity as a vehicle for it. But sitting and saying, may all beings be happy, I don't think that's ever helped anybody, because the students who are practicing aren't happy when they start practicing metta. They've got no metta. Like a bunch of empty hot buckets out there trying to throw water on somebody. They got no water in their bucket. So we have to have some. We have to have some. This is the way that we would practice correctly, is by actually practicing having good, wholesome thoughts. Become happy. Start filling your bucket with joy. Start filling your bucket with satisfaction. Become satisfied. Thinking about the Dhamma. Wow, the Dhamma is so nice. Wow, I can share that Dhamma with others. Then, in fact, that's, if you want to be generous, that's the best gift to give. I learned that from Achan Po, but it's very typically known that the best gift that you can give to somebody is the Dhamma. So I give you all the gifts of the Dhamma. To start thinking about being joyful, being happy, come out of your hindrances, come out of your wrongdoing, come out of all of that stuff that keeps us in a state of dissatisfaction. So, David, have I answered your question?
Yes, very well. Yeah, all those good qualities come from your overflow. That generosity, mudita. Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
May I ask what was David's question? Because I wasn't here when he asked it. What was the first day's question?
David.
So I asked, so we usually talk about the aim of our practice is to be satisfied. But then I wondered, some people might ask, well, what about other things like generosity, gratitude, expressing compassion? Are those something separate from satisfaction, or are those the outcome of being satisfied?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, and one of the points that I made at that time was that satisfaction is not the goal. What is the goal? Amrit, what is the goal of the teaching of the Buddha?
The goal is not to have any goals.
To have no goals.
So
That's right. You've already got everything.
yeah, to be so
Everything you
happy
need.
that
You don't.
overflowing with joy.
That's the right way to live, is if you've already got everything done, no place to go, nothing to do. The job that needed to be done has already been done. That's a phrase that's used in the suttas to describe an arahat. The job has been done. Well, anytime that you can change your mind from an unwholesome thought to a wholesome thought, that's the job. Anytime that you can do that and come out of that state into a state of wholesome, joyful happiness, the job that needed to be done has already been done. How many of you feel like that all your jobs have done already? You've got all your jobs done. Nothing left to do. That's the way to start living our lives, as if everything from now on is not a job to do. It's just having fun, doing a bunch of nothing. Start enjoying what you're doing. Ben, do you have anything to say?
Supremely satisfied. Thank you, Dhammarato.
How about you, Thomas, with a UO?
Very much the same as Ben. Very satisfied. Nothing more to do right now. How wonderful.
Mm-hmm. So you're beginning to feel like that you've got enough. Don't you see how that feeling having enough actually makes you feel like that you've got more than enough? So there's that excess, there's that overflow. That in fact, in one regard, you can think of it as the first step is to come to satisfaction. That's the sukha. And then the piti is to feel success. Got it. I can do this. And then the step beyond success is what we would call wealth. You're wealthy. You got so much Dhamma that you can't do anything but just spread it all over the place. My paintbrush is full of Dhamma, and everywhere I sling that paintbrush, I paint Dhamma. I'm glad you guys come here to get the Dhamma. Otherwise, I'd be spraying it on the cats. So, Ross, do you understand? Do you think you got what we're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand, but I think there's also an acceptance of I need to keep practicing as well. There's I need to keep at the practice.
Right. It takes over and over and over and over and over again practice. Then in fact, you can start then back with that 49 Chevrolet and think about the kid playing with it and piddling with it and working on it. He does that at sometimes at the gas station, and soon he gets a job at the gas station. And there he's repairing other people's cars. And then somebody in a Maserati comes by and they get impressed with him. And the next thing you know, now he's on the team working on a real race car. But he's the junior guy on the team. But after a few years of working on that car over and over and over and over again, it's not a one-time shot. He'll eventually be the team lead. So this is the way that we have to do it, is keep practicing over and over and over and over again. Any kid who takes piano lessons is not going to be a concert pianist. He's probably going to quit playing the piano as soon as he has an opportunity to. As soon as his mom doesn't want to pay for piano lessons anymore, he's going to quit. That's what I did with Christianity. The first opportunity I had, I quit. But if you keep practicing the piano over and over and over again every day, 4 hours, 8 hours a day, you'll wind up being a master at it. In fact, that's one of the stories that I have heard. It was Franz Liszt spent 8 hours a day at the keyboard. Another story that I've heard was about Arthur Rubinstein, that some woman came up to him after a concert and said, "Mr. Rubinstein, kind sir, I would give half my life to play the piano the way you do." And he mused and he thought, and he says, "Yeah, that's about what it cost. About half my life." Okay, so you're fully underway into the soda pond if you spend half your life in the Dhamma, on your way to spending all of your time in the Dhamma. And when you're spending all your time in the Dhamma, that's when you're really going to have great success, great fruit, great value. So much that you just spread it all over the place. You become dedicated to the Dhamma. You become enthusiastic about the Dhamma. You become delighted with the Dhamma. This is the way to keep practicing over and over and over again. And in fact, this is what the Buddha saw in people, is why he developed the Sangha of monks in the first place, because he knew that people couldn't be farmers and aristocrats and landowners and practice the Dhamma well, that they had to practice it like he did. He devoted his time, years and years and years, to practice, getting nowhere. And then when he got someplace with it, he still spent all of his time with the Dhamma, teaching it, helping other people with it, becoming generous with it, becoming a master teacher at it. That's what it takes. It takes that kind of dedication to the Dhamma. So I would like for each one of you to consider not necessarily becoming a monk, but instead becoming a Dhamma dude. You got nothing else to do except practice the Dhamma, thinking about the Dhamma, rehearsing the Dhamma, singing the Dhamma, reading the Dhamma, talking Dhamma. There's nothing left to do. Ross, are you up to that?
Well, it's something I think I'm already doing. So yeah, I'll keep going.
All right. How about you, Amrit? Are you up to such a task? It's Dhamma,
Oh,
Dhamma,
yeah,
Dhamma.
definitely. Yes, sure.
How about you, Thomas?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, because that's where all your joy is going to be. Because if those moments when you're not practicing your Dhamma, what are you going to be doing then? If you want to be happy for the rest of your life, you got to be practicing your Dhamma for the rest of your life. There's a song in there someplace, but I won't sing it today. So, Carl with a C, are you ready for the Dhamma?
I'm ready. Yes, sure.
Practicing, practicing, practicing. You keep doing it.
A little bit every day.
No, a little bit more than yesterday. Every day. Not a little bit. No, that's like the woman who says, I want to be as good a musician as Arthur Rubinstein. I'll spend 5 minutes a day to be as good as you are. Not going to cut it.
All right, but a little bit is better than nothing.
Yes, but not much. Not much at all. So I would say a little bit now, and then a little bit in a little while, and then a little bit more a few minutes later, over and over and over again, more and more and more. The practice a little bit's not going to give you much, just like practicing the piano is not going to get you on stage. Not going to give you an audience. Not going to put enough joy in your heart that you can give anything to anybody else. It's not a little bit. You got to practice. Now, the way to start that I would recommend is you've probably heard very many places where they talk about an hour a day. Well, I wouldn't recommend doing it for a solid hour a day because most people who practice an hour a day are wasting their time, especially the last 50 minutes. So what I would recommend instead is to break it into 6 times during the day and practice for 10 minutes 6 times a day. Now, when you get good at it, then you're going to practice it for 5 minutes 12 times a day. Except that when you're practicing it 5 minutes 12 times a day, throughout each one of those 12 hours, you're going to be practicing a little bit. You're going to be start thinking about it. And so maybe you can spend 10 minutes, 5 minutes at the beginning of the hour, and then 5 minutes at the middle of the hour. And start spending some time thinking about the Dhamma, thinking about how we can feel good, thinking about how marvelous the Dhamma is, how joyful we are. Over and over and over again, we want to start spending more and more time until you got nothing else on your mind. Amrit, you got your hand up.
Yes, I just want to make one comment. So last week we did this short breathing exercise.
Yes.
This kind of, and that helped me a lot. So now I do it quite often. So whenever my energy is low, and after a couple of minutes, I really feel energetic and very joyful. So this is kind of strange because I'm listening to you for quite a while, but this occurred to me only last week when you also said that do it whenever you feel kind of less energetic, sleepy.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, I think I learned this lesson and I'm doing it often. So maybe this could be also maybe useful for other people, and maybe increase the amount of time you spend in Dhamma.
Yes. By the way, on the side, Mikey and I actually went back into that video. And how many of you were on the call last week when we did the short breath? Right? How long in general do you think we did that? 5 minutes? 10 minutes? Would you believe that we only did it for 2 minutes? That's all we did was just 2 minutes. But it felt like a long time, right? That shows how relative time is. Time is relative when you're doing something like that. So, Amrit, if you were doing it, like you said, 2 minutes, congratulations. That's a long time to do the short breath. There are some groups, like I said last time, that practice doing that short breath for 45 minutes. But in order to do it for 45 minutes, you've got to have a personal guide that is sitting on your chest and pounding on you. Keep going, keep going. Because we want to give up. But you can do it for a couple of minutes on your own. I know that a lot of people, when I was doing it for 2 minutes, how many of you wanted to say, I'm finished with this, I want to quit? Probably 1 minute in, oh, this is getting too much. And we only did it for 2 minutes. But if you practice, 2 minutes will become easy. That's what the joy of practice is all about. Like, for instance, a child who is learning how to play the piano, 10 or 15 minutes at the keyboard is about as much as that kid can stand. Maybe after he's done 3 or 4 years of piano lessons, he's ready for 30 or 40 minutes. But it takes real dedication, like to be Franz Liszt, to where he's spending 8 hours a day at that keyboard. Now, I'm not recommending you do 8 hours a day of short breath, but I am recommending that you do 8 hours a day of Dhamma. You keep at it. Keep at it. There's nothing better to do. Wow, what a relief it is. Anytime those unwholesome thoughts come in, you can say, hot dog, I don't have to have that thought. Well, I can come back into the Dhamma. So, Carl with a K, do you have anything to say? How about you, Kat? I can only see the top of your glasses.
Oh, you can't see me, no?
No, now I can see. Oh, now we got a muck. I can see the first off of the edge of your robe. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, someone here said, oh, I can practice only a little bit during the day. But I feel like for me, also that I was kind of like that too, until I started really getting the results of my practice and I seen how good it was. And I just kept doing it over and over and over. And then it's just like, there's no other way, there's no other choice but to keep rolling the ball because this really works. And then you just want to keep going. And then it's not really like a chore in the beginning. It is a bit of a chore because a lot of bad Vedic kind of feeling can come up, but you really get a handle on those bad feelings and you get a good, strong, attitude and basis of practice. Then this is really fun. I mean, it's just fun at some point. You're just having fun, and that's it. Like, that's the way to go, is getting this joy and keep going. And yeah, I think that's the way to go. And nice to see everyone too. Yeah.
Yeah, well, congratulations. You're getting it going. That's what we need. That's
Also,
what we need to do. Go ahead.
Also, when you were talking about Anapanasati, you said something about having sukha kind of immediately. But recently at the Suwan Mok International Retreat, I would come in with Ajahn Mehdi and sit down, and he would instruct people to basically go from step 1 to step 4, right? And then he would say, oh, if you can't get sukha and you can't get piti, then you should go to step 13 and just immediately contemplate impermanence, not not come into sukha. So I was curious what you think about that.
Well, it depends. I mean, if you're doing it kind of the way that people think about it, but then it's hard to do. But the way that you've heard me talk about impermanence is that, wow, I'm glad I don't have to do that. Wow, this is all over. Wow, nothing to do and no place to go. Wow, that all those jobs just rotted away. Everything is temporary.
Yeah, I didn't hear a wink on gladdening the mind stuff at all in these retreats. It's very interesting, you know, like they don't mention these things at all in these retreats. And then after people, you know, after
well, maybe it's time for you to go talk to Kun Metta about you doing some of the teaching there.
Only after some of the people like in the group were sort of curious about me, and then I would talk about this part of meditation. They were very surprised. They're like, "Oh, wait, you know, it's not even undermined about meditation, about this step of gladdening the mind with wholesome thoughts." It's like, oh, it's not even.
Well, it's right there in the Anapanasati Sutta. What do you need? Yeah. Sukha is right there. You want to develop sukha? Get some sukha. Wow, I got nowhere to go and nothing to do. It's all rotted away. And nature, what the sankara upatawaya domino. Hot dog, I'm okay.
Yeah.
That's the problem with ordinary people teaching an ordinary Dhamma, rather than a noble teaching the noble Dhamma. Ordinary people, when they teach the Dhamma, they're bringing their own hindrances in to their topic.
Mm.
And it's hard to find a noble who will teach. A lot of the nobles say, I'm too busy doing nothing to go out there and teach a retreat. In fact, there's only a few people who are really good at it. And my friend Dhamma Vitu, he's a good example.
I mean, me actually, I don't even know if I told you this, Dhammarato, but me and David, we visited Dhammavidu, and he literally said, "I'm done with that." I'm done with that. That was his response, but he could, yeah.
All right. Does anybody else have something fun and happy to say? How about you, Ivan?
Yeah, I'm just listening. I'm feeling really sleepy, but yeah, nothing much to say.
Okay. How about you, Amrit? Any last words?
I'm also feeling very satisfied. So nothing
Okay.
more to say.
How about you, Ben?
No change here. Still satisfied.
Great. How about you, Ross?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I think just keep on remembering the importance of Sangha to bring back all these sort of ideas to keep me going. So thank you, everyone.
Yes. Stay with the Sangha. Stay with noble friends. Spend your time talking about the Dhamma with other people. That's a way of spending good time. Is talking about the Dhamma, thinking about the Dhamma, applying the Dhamma, telling Dhamma stories. David, do you have any last words?
Joyfully satisfied. The job has been done.
How about you, Mikey? Any final things to say?
So happy to hear this talk today. And yeah, if you haven't yet, please join the OpenSanghaFoundation.org. And it's actually a great place for us to start messaging one another. Some of you have seen for quite a long time, but maybe we haven't spoke before one-to-one. So it'd be
Yes.
great to be more friendly with some of you.
Right.
But
Our
yeah.
messaging system is really good because if you don't send the message within 24 hours, it'll send you an email, which Skype doesn't do. So starting to use the message, we also have groups so that you can go on a group and start jawboning and see if other people, the Sangha group is a good group to join. It's the one that's already got quite a number of people. Amrit, have you joined that Sangha group?
No, I've not joined yet. I will join.
Okay. How about you, Anna?
I'm staying with the jumping from one wholesome thought to another wholesome thought. And I want to learn to sing the Dhamma one day.
Okay.
Thank you, Dhammarato.
Right. We're inviting you to join the Sangha group on the Open Sangha Foundation website. Come talk about the Dhamma.
Yes.
Kat, you and David both.
Dhammarato, are you moving the Skype on, like all of the Skype group onto the OSF website?
Yes.
Oh.
It'll only take us about 10 years.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, we've got none of the limits that Skype have.
Oh.
We've got it built into where there is no limits.
But can you have video calls on the website directly?
Not yet. But we do have the ability to do it on both Discord and also on Zoom. But as far as I know, there have been no real good plugins that allow us to do video calls through the website. Stay tuned. Maybe next week.
Yeah, one thing I want to mention about the website is that we're making an effort to make it easier to look at the things that people post, because sometimes in these Skype groups and the Discord groups, you'll see the same question asked over and over and over again, where on our site, we've made it easier to where you can go and see what people have posted before, and there doesn't need to be spent so much time on some of the same old topics that we talk about quite a bit.
I don't have any topics other than old ones. All my topics are 2,500 years old.
Good point.
But it's also interesting that somebody new will come on, like on Reddit, and they'll ask the same old dumb questions over and over again. And the interesting thing is that they'll get the same old dumb answers.
Yeah, sure.
What we need is a noble place where people are asking noble questions and getting noble answers. All right, well, let's go ahead and finish this call. Thank you all so much for joining. Wow, I'm so happy to see so many. 17 on the call right now. Or is that a 12?
Thank you, Dhammarato.
Yeah, 12.
Yes.
Dhammarato.
Thank you so much, everybody. Glad to see you.
Thank you, Dhammarato. Thank you.
See ya.